Thank you to Ismat Rayleigh for becoming a member of the channel, and thank you again to Ismat Rayleigh for gifting 5 memberships. So Blaze X, Up the Trin, Waze, Peter G and Finn Bobs are now members of the channel. Thank you very much to all members for your support. Now let's get on with the video. Starting in 12th and still in 12th, I have Salford Red Devils. Their match of the weekend was called off due to the ongoing issues at the club. I am glad that the protest still went ahead though. Hopefully something comes off the back of it. If they do a few more as well when the owners are hopefully present, hopefully it sparks some kind of change, but obviously Salford Red Devils will stay in 12th. On to 11th, and still in 11th, I have Castleford Tigers. They had absolutely nothing going for them at the weekend. They produced barely any sets that caused any real damage. Their kicking had no effectiveness whatsoever to even slightly get them out of trouble, and their defence was non-existent. For some of the tackles in defence, they could commit 3 defenders to the ball carrier, but there was such a lack of effort to actually get them to the ground or slow them down. We know Castleford are a great team this year, and they haven't been for a few years, but this performance was clearly one of their worst in the last few seasons. In 10th, and still in 10th, I have Catalan Dragons. Their first half versus Warrington was pretty good, actually. No complaints there, really. Faj led the attack around quite well. There was a lot more pace this week, especially down that right edge. They were more creative this time around, and in most areas were clearly the better side. However, if we look at their second half, it was full of errors and penalties which gifted Warrington field position. In fairness to Catalans, they didn't make it easy when they were under constant pressure on their own try line. They did lose a game that they were leading 22 points to 6 after 33 minutes, something like that, and they didn't score again after 33 minutes, which isn't a great sign. Catalan Dragons will stay where they are in 10th. On to 9th and 8th, because these sides are basically level for me after this round. They're basically joint 8th. In 9th, I've got Warrington Wolves. In 8th, I've got Huddersfield Giants, both non-movers. You could easily swap them. Starting with Warrington, straight up, they didn't deserve the win at the weekend. In terms of performance, it wasn't good. Defensively in the first half, Wire were poor. There was a lack of intensity and concentration, honestly. In the second half, Wire were gifted a lot of penalties. Catalans dropped the ball a few times as well. Wire also had a handful of repeat sets and a lot of pressure on the Dragons try line, but just looked absolutely clueless inside the red zone. I can't fault the second half defence, and Ryan Matheson, for example, continues to show his quality since joining, but Warrington Wolves for now will stay in 9th. So with the Huddersfield Giants in 8th, they were awful against Saints. Had the same kind of feel of Leeds versus Cass, really. Their sets got them nowhere. Kicks at the end of sets just went straight to the Saints' back 3, and by the end of the next set, the Giants were stuck inside their own 10 again. There were some serious defensive lapses, even at the start of the second half, when the scoreline was somewhat in reach. I think it was 24-4, something like that. They conceded after a minute or two, and any chance of a second half fight back was over. And as I said, Wire and Huddersfield are basically level for me. You can interchange these. If you want to put Warrington above, you can do, but they're basically both 8th. They play each other in the next round, so I guess we'll see who wants 8th place more. On to 7th and 6th, as I think it's important to put these sides together. I've got Wakefield Trinity moving down 1 into 7th, and Hull FC moving up 1 into 6th. To be very clear, very clear, this is not to punish Wakey because they didn't play, okay? This is to praise Hull FC because of how good they were. I'm assuming if Wakey played Salford at the weekend, it would feel very similar to Hull FC versus Salford the week before. There's not too much to read into it, so I'm assuming Wakefield would have looked completely fine with no issues, and we couldn't really take too much out of the performance. But the reason Hull FC move up is because of how strong they were against Leigh this round. From minute 1, they were the better side. Their carries were effective. They looked well connected in attack when they did try to move the ball around, which it didn't feel like they did too much early on, but it felt like they were just being patient instead, which is good because they also kicked well. They found the corners, they pinned Leigh back, and their defence off the back of those kicks was great. They gave away a few penalties in the first half to let Leigh move up the field, but nothing really happened because Hull was so strong through the middle and their defence was solid. I think their performance was very professional and almost everything they did was well executed. So for me, Hull FC move up 1 into 6th. On to 5th place, and still in 5th, I have Wigan Warriors. Unfortunately, I was only able to see the first half due to issues with Virgin Media, Virgin TV at the weekend. Anyone else with Virgin will know what the issues were, so lucky us, I guess. But the first half for Wigan was poor. And it's not just a case of KR being too strong, but Wigan were at fault for their own problems. They just couldn't build any pressure in the first half because of constant errors. Set completion was fairly poor early on due to those errors. In defence of Wigan, there's still no French, and we know how important he is to their attack. Kieran played in the halves, and there's still no Thompson up front, and they were down to 12 men for 10 minutes. It wasn't a great display overall, and they've got some work to do in attack and in defence without French, when they do have to shift things around, if they've got a few more games to go without French as well. And through the middle, their effectiveness with the carries just hasn't really been the same as it was since the start of the season. But we'll see how they do in playoffs. I think Wigan might be a different beast, but for now, Wigan will stay in 5th. But on to 4th, and moving down 1 this week, I have Leigh Leopards. Their performance versus Hull wasn't good. There were good moments, but it wasn't good overall. They did lose off Ngawi very early, but their carries afterwards had no effect from anyone that it felt like. Not even Mulhern, not Liu, not even Trout, not Niu out wide. They were easy to pin back, and even when they did get up the field due to a penalty, or they did do some good work to get up there, their attack just wasn't good enough. As they got further into the game, they started to pick up the pace a little bit, throw the ball around more, and they got quite creative, especially down that left edge with Lamb and Hodgson connecting a couple of times, getting some line breaks. They were successful with that. They brought the score back to 12-all, which was wild to me, just given how dominant Hull FC were up to that point. But with Leigh showing up properly, in the final 30 minutes, they at least made it a competitive game, but it wasn't a great performance overall, as I said. Leigh Leopards will move down 1 into 4th. Now on to the top 3, and in 3rd place, moving up 1, I have Leeds Rhinos. I think they had the most dominant performance of anyone this weekend, and one of the most dominant of the season, to be honest. Luckily, the scoreline actually reflected that as well. From start to finish, Leeds controlled everything. Their kicking game was fine, but it didn't need to be anything more, simply because they weren't constantly kicking from their own half. They worked the ball up the field easily. They moved the ball around really well, whether that be with their attacking shapes or getting offloads to keep the play alive. And there was a few occasions where they scored some really nice tries off the back of constant offloads. Their defensive line speed, oh my god, it was excellent. They pushed up as a line quickly, constantly committed 3 men to the tackle, and the moment a cast ball carrier hit that defensive wall, they were stopped immediately. Even with some big guys missing in the pack this week, they still won the battle in the middle easily, and Lockie Miller had himself another great game in 2025. So on to 2nd place, and still in 2nd, I have St Helens. They also put on a dominant display from start to finish. Their carries were great once again through the middle, but Saylor was huge for actually breaking Huddersfield's defence open through the middle and towards the edges. Felt had himself a great game with 2 tries and 8 conversions. Percival was a constant problem for the Giants' right edge defence. He found constant line breaks, and Owen Dagnall probably just had his best game in a St Helens shirt as well. He did a lot of great individual work, but as a team, Saints would easily move up the field, kick to the corners, easily pin the Giants back. It just looks so demoralising watching the Giants trying to work the ball out their own 10 and 20. The Saints would collect the ball on the halfway line and then just build constant pressure off the back of those sets from there, time and time again. They were completely dominant. St Helens will stay in 2nd. So on to 1st place, and still in 1st, I have Hull Kingston Rovers. They did everything they needed to against Wigan. They just ran hard, completed sets, got to the kick, and limited the metres from carries as much as possible. They did that all throughout the first half. The yellow card would have helped to build momentum to start the second half, of course, but they were already on top way before that yellow card. According to the stats, they completed at 93% compared to Wigan's 78%. That's always going to help you to build field position more over time. From what I saw, Hull KR were professional enough, defended well enough, and when Wigan had to start throwing the ball around at them later on, they defended fairly well to restrict the points and only allowed 6 in the end, which is great defensive work against a side that has a lot of great individuals in that attack, and they won the wrestle through the middle throughout the game. So Hull Kingston Rovers will stay in 1st. So there you have my Super League Round 22 power rankings. As always, if you guys have your own list, let me know in the comment section down below, or if you disagree with anything, let me know in the comment section as well. But if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content. And if you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. But that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.